We're getting a new girl in school?
I'm sorry, is this a high school? Why is he asking that like it's super weird? You'd think you would commonly get people coming to a university that you hadn't met before.
Kazu is still a virgin.
So while this is a good moment to show Kazuya's relationship with his friends, it is pretty annoying how in episode 2, Kibe hyped up hanging out with Sasuno, and yet here they're just casually hanging out, because it makes Kazuya's justification for going to that party in that episode seem even more flimsy, which doesn't help with making him not look like an idiot. But hey, continuity's a government conspiracy, right, Rag Riders?
I don't really know anything about going on dates.
You'd think you would have told her that a bit earlier, or at least assume that she already knew considering how you behave and all the jokes your friends made. But it isn't as if saying it now is the most illogical thing he's ever done.
I know how you feel.
Here's a question the show never bothers to explore. Is she being sincere here, or is she lying? Because if she's being sincere, how the hell is that a line that made her open up? And if she's lying, what does this lie possibly contribute more than something like, "You could have fooled me," or some other lie to reassure him that he's doing well?
He's the one. I'm not gonna screw this up.
While I like this moment to show how Kazuya was trying to make this relationship last forever, because since it was his first he didn't have any maturity around dating, it's a damn shame the rest of the show does not frame this as a problem and actively praises it, which makes this moment seem far more shallow.
Like I could ever forget that!
I mean, sure, I guess, but you seem to be confusing the phrases "forget it happened" and "pretend it never happened." Like, what is it with the writing here? How can the writers not make his thoughts make even the slightest sense?
Control herself and she kissed me! Doesn't that mean she likes me?
I mean, despite it being wrong here, I would think that that is Occam's razor here. And I wouldn't blame anyone for coming to this conclusion. I mean, it is the fattest reach to say she doesn't like me, she's just pretending to make me break up, and then she'll dump me again, even though that isn't very logical. That being said, it feels so good to have Kazuya think rationally.
Maybe I'm coming down with a cold or something.
I mean, I would assume heat stroke first, right? Like, it may not be true, but you'd think if you aren't feeling well after being in the sun too long, that is what you'd assume, no?
Now I'm really gonna have to face her.
Again, it does annoy me how the show already let Kazuya get through doing the breakup and experience literally no consequences, and yet he is still nervous about doing it again. Like, if you'd already heard her say she suspected she'd break up with you and say she was just happy a girl finally fell for you, then you wouldn't really be that concerned if you were forced to do it for real and forever this time. Again, if you backspace that conversation from mid-episode 2, this conflict would be so much better. But the fact is that it is there. And it shows how stupid the writers think their audience is.
Oh, no, I wouldn't say that.
In what would you say? Nothing? You'd want to just say something to move this along, right? Because this is just getting more and more awkward for you, and it doesn't seem like Kazuya's gonna do anything.
Soon, I'm going to introduce you to my real girlfriend.
God, man, it is such a weird experience hearing him say that, knowing how against the idea of introducing Ruka to his grandmother he ends up being. Like, I know he loves Mami more, and Ruka's basically his abuser, but my god, how can the writers not understand how lines like this make other parts of this season make no fucking sense? Like, was there just a straight-up change of writers after episode 6, or did the writers just get utter goldfish brain?
Chizuru and I were talking about breaking up.
Good on him for actually manning up and doing this. It is a damn shame that the show really had to keep going, but this moment is great. The way Kazuya's talking, the fact that they take some time to show his hands shaking, this is impressive. Such a damn shame that the scene had literally no consequences, because if it did, I could actually enjoy this moment.
You're a jerk, Kazu. Don't ever let your dick run your life.
Shame the only time he flashes back to that line, he completely misinterprets the point of the scene, since that phrase pretty much applies to everything he does after this, so maybe if he took it to heart, he wouldn't be doing, well, you know.
Get off sucker punching me like that!
So this fight is actually good. This is like the only fight scene in the whole show, and it's actually well directed. The insults they're throwing does show us a bit about their relationship, and the fact that Kazuya is weaker than Kibe, but giving it a lot, does show us a lot about what Kibe will talk about later in this episode. You know, maybe the writers should have done a shonen anime, since they can write friendships and action scenes really well, but hey, they chose to make a harem instead, so I guess it's too late for me to help them.
You ever turned into such a lying, self-centered dirtbag?
Another line it would be great if Kazuya flashed back to, because you'd think, considering the closest friend said this to you while beating you up, you'd remember it, but I guess when you have a character this dense, not even a full-on beatdown can change his attitude.
I know your brain's a dumpster fire, but at least burn for the right girl!
While I like the speech, there are a few problems with it, starting with how, again, the closer we get to episode 6, the more bizarre it is to me how many lines in these first few episodes are completely supporting the idea that Kazuya should date Ruka, but we'll get back to that when she actually shows up. But, as well, the fact that he said girl who chose to be with you is kind of weird, considering the fact that, according to his knowledge, Kazuya asked both of them out and they both accepted. So, the fact that he thinks only one of them chose to be with him implies that he thinks Mami had an ulterior motive. If he thinks that, what does he think it was? Surely you'd tell him that if you knew it, since it would be a pretty good thing to let him know to try and help him make up his mind about which girl to date. Like, what are you doing, man?
You don't know how much I feel for Mommy!
I mean, I get what they're trying to do with Kazuya here, but my god, this is so cringe and pretentious. And again, they really don't seem to want to let the others have any personality or stake in this conflict. It's like only one of Kazuya's friends is allowed to have any personality at any given time, and the rest just become basically NPCs.
Chizuru's sitting right there!
Wait, did Kuri just forget what this fight was about? And the fact that even if Kazuya and Chizuru were for real, and even if they didn't want to break up, what you say in a fight with someone is not necessarily what you actually feel. So this line is just a fucking nothing line to waste time. The reason being that often when you're in a fight, you're not thinking as rationally as you usually do, so you could just spew out something and not actually mean it.
You know that Kazu's a fool.
Although, it is a great moment to have Kibe be the first to work this out about Mami. The fact that she is clearly not acting without ill intent, and she clearly knows Kazuya and how he thinks, and would definitely fall prey to his desires. Again, shame neither of these characters have much of a stake in the plot going forward, because this moment shows that more of them would in no way be a bad thing.
You're kind of beat up.
Okay, is the stroke getting to her that bad? Of course he's not okay, and of course he's beat up. He had a fucking fight with his friend. Well, despite how many things this episode does right, Rent-A-Girlfriend will always be Rent-A-Girlfriend.
To make a booking with you for next week. No date, though.
Why is he even making that last booking if he is fully committed to ending it afterwards? Why not just say he'll give her the money for this and then leave it alone, since they both have to do their fake breakup to their grandmothers, so it makes no sense for them to see each other at another time. And if Kazuya goes on another date, it will only make him less committed. You know, because he'll want it more. If he just doesn't make that booking, then he won't need to try, and he'll be fine. Furthermore, saying no date, though, for a service whose entire purpose is dates, is like going up to a McDonald's counter and then going, hey, can I have a Big Mac, no burger? Like, what is he saying here?
So it's the perfect time to end this whole act.
True, and it's a pity it doesn't end here, because while this would be kind of a bittersweet ending, I would still prefer it more than this show staying around as long as it did, and likely continue to.
That whole charade was ridiculous, wasn't it?
I mean, I know you think it's over, but man, how did you not think of that in episode 2, man? Like, I know this is to try and make the scene where Kazuya saves Chizuru seem more surprising by making it seem like he's over her, but my god, man, this feels like the show is just trolling the shit out of me, you know? And it's really starting to get on my nerves.
I guess you do know how to be a man.
Why did she say man here instead of adult, since that was the exact criticism she made in episode 2, and yet she changes the word for no explained reason? Again, little things. And if the show ended here, I could forgive them. But it doesn't, so.
It must have really sucked for you, huh?
Dude, just leave it for the love of God. You don't want to know how she felt with this. She's proud of you for ending it, and you're happy for the time you spent together. Just let her walk off. It is all good, you'll be fine. And she still will have a good impression of you, so at least if you run into her around the apartment, things won't be so bad. But here, you're just being a nuisance for no reason.
This is my job.
Again, almost as if episode 1 taught this motherfucker nothing, and he continues to be the same person despite being beat over the head with a lesson. Oh, this shot looks like the ending to an old school western. It's just a shame this wasn't the actual ending. Sure, it would have gone down in history as a horrible anime, but to be fair, at least they ended it off with Kazuya realizing he was an idiot to try and keep this charade going, to be with Chizuru, and trying to focus on Mami, and so despite everything before this being horrible, at least it wouldn't be remembered as a shit anime with a good finale. But alas, we all know that the show doesn't end here. It doesn't even end with the season. Hell, season 3 is only halfway through the fucking manga.
That girl is expensive.
That's what you get for keeping this going. You think he would have realized the financial drain of the charade long before he sort of realized the emotional one. Man, this show really loves to pretend it knows finance, but do little to use it to cause any actual consequences.
Damn, that hothead Kibe.
Hey man, to be fair, he knows you better than anyone, so he knew that whatever you were gonna say, it was a lie to cover up how you couldn't decide whether to date Chizuru or Mami.
Why are you so stupid, Kibe?
Why are you so stupid, Kazuya? I mean, you could have done this after the restaurant when she wasn't here, and you could have done it after the beach, you know, when she wasn't right there. Like, stop blame shifting and own up, big man.
You just don't get it, man.
And explain it to him, you fucking idiot. Like, I know you can't because it has so many consequences, but then don't complain about him not getting it if you can't let him get it. Do you guys see how this entire scene perfectly demonstrates how the writers didn't learn any principles of writing or even analyze other works? They just used lines and character archetypes that they know will work for them, and for some inexplicable reason, it did.
Oh, thanks a lot, pal. Why are you telling her that now?
Contextualize his surprise around the two of them dating and why he got so mad at Kazuya on the beach. Like, again, this man is so fucking dumb. I genuinely feel like I lose brain cells writing, because then the most obvious conclusion ever. Like, how the hell is this guy supposed to be relatable to anyone or enjoyed by anyone?
He's so wishy-washy. He keeps on making one mistake after another, and he never gets it right.
Yo, facts! But seriously, writers, if you openly acknowledge a character's flaw, then why do you never do an arc to correct it? It does make people appreciate your work more, and you look smarter. Win-win! But that would take even the slightest amount of effort, and I guess we can't have that.
Hey, come on, tell me he's wrong!
I mean, she has literally said the same thing to your face, so fucking course you wouldn't tell him he's wrong. That would take more acting prowess than anyone's got.
I remember this one time when we were in grade school.
While I like this story, and it really does establish Kibe and Kazuya's relationship, I can't help getting annoyed at how little screen time he gets after episode 6, because the writers can genuinely write some good dialogue for this guy.
But then I didn't.
And another awesome delivery by Nicholas. The dub team for the show is just incredible, man.
He stuck it out, and that plant would have never bloomed at all if he had given up on it.
Pity literally no one in the show takes that advice, because it is good advice. Sometimes perseverance doesn't lead to the results you originally intended, but it can lead to something better. But perseverance isn't a quality really shown in the rest of the show. Instead, it is replaced by stupidity. Also, while I love the speech for what it's saying, it does make no sense that, you know, if you put the soil growing one plant back in the pot, that it turns into a different plant. But I'm willing to suspend my disbelief and let them have this. Few things in the show are funnier to me than this. Like, he finds a good hiding spot that works like a charm and is caught by a dog happening to walk by and forcing him up, and yet he doesn't learn his lesson, and episode 8 still happens. But more on that when we get there.
How can I say no after that speech he gave?
Holy shit, are you guys seeing this? Narrative logic as to why Chizuru and Kazuya end up on the boat. These few minutes perfectly indicate why I talk about all the contrivances, because the writers know how narrative logic works and choose to take the easy route of contriving everything in this season.
So he'll accept it if you tell him we talked it out.
Okay, that is a really smart plan. He cooled off and tried to get them back together, so Chizuru is just thinking that this fairy trip is the perfect excuse to explain why the breakup is final.
And this is our last time together.
So, what about the booking he made? Is she saying that that booking for next week is replaced with this fairy, or did the writers just forget? Either way, it's just stupid and again shows the laziness on display in the show.
Too, so I don't have this hanging over any future jobs.
Sorry, how would this even hang over any future jobs? Does she mean the fact that she would have had to keep doing this and therefore disobeying her agency more times? Or just the extent of this relationship? Because I hate to break it to you, in both cases the damage has been done. So if this relationship would have hurt your job prospects, and the agency find out, it would hurt them regardless of the length.
I didn't think things would turn out this way.
Didn't think consistently going behind a corporation's back would make them dislike said employee, and therefore be less likely to recommend them? What is this statement? Look, I know he's just showing remorse here, but like, this phraseology is just terrible.
When there's something that you know you want, you have to go all out and claim it for yourself. Life is a lot more fun that way.
This is another pretty good line in this episode, but it is kind of funny how the rest of the show tries and fails to replicate this.
I have a question about your agency's review scale. Why does it only go up to 5?
Because that is the standard of agency review systems. Look it up. Most businesses are on a scale of 5, my dude. And besides, if you could give 10, that would mean everyone else could give 10, so it wouldn't change anything. It would ultimately just mean 5 stars would become the new 3 stars.
Think you could leave me alone now?
Yeah, you'd think he would have worked out from context clues to shut the fuck up and leave her alone. Because, you know, she's feeling sick and probably doesn't want to be reminded of her job while she's sick like most people. And especially not in a way this cringe. But I guess Kazi is just on a completely new plane to me. Well, I'm sure you could tell, but this episode really encapsulates the fake consequences model the show operates on. And that is a damn shame. Because while there is some stupid shit here, to be fair, there is a lot of stuff here that I would call some pretty genuinely good television. Well, the quality goes back to slipping when they try to resolve this arc, so see you then.